Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
What's a creepy fact you wish you never learned? Commented this before, but if you have abdominal surgery and the surgeon needs your intestines out of the way, they don't try to get them back in exactly as they were. They can put them in pretty much any old way and they sort themselves out. Then freaked out even more when someone else commented that you can quite often feel them wriggling themselves back into position. Everybody wants the guts rearranged, nobody likes when the guts arrange themselves. SMH. NGL, I'm gonna work this into my next sexy talk. You can feel that wiggling feeling after giving birth too. Felt like I was all jello in my abdomen, would feel a wiggle and like slipping sensation. It didn't hurt, the part that hurt was when they come in and do that abdomen rub to push the blood out of you for your uterus to contract back. That felt like pure torture. It felt like my son was still kicking inside me. I was so confused. Then grossed out when I learned the real reason. Standing up after having a baby and literally feeling everything inside you slide back down into place. Freakiest feeling ever. Scared me cause I thought all my guts were falling out. I had to have a C-section when our daughter was born and heard one doctor say to the other doctor, "Pass me the uterus, I'm gonna clean it." Still don't know whether my uterus was actually lifted out, still don't want to know. My ex had our baby via C-section, and I watched. One of the more disturbing parts of it was her uterus laying on her chest, while two interns picked pieces of placenta off of it as they were discussing where they were going to go get lunch. To you it was your child being born, your wife getting cut open like a fish and two strangers picking off pieces off her uterus. To them it was Tuesday. Totally normal. I'm assuming you had a spinal injection so you were relatively numb from roughly the belly button down. Once baby is out they squeeze the bar Jesus out of your uterus to get to stop bleeding. They also have to remove all the good parts that were surrounding baby. It's not really a scrubbing, more of a pulling tissue with fingers, clamps. Then they shove that bad boy back in yar and away you go. Thanks, I hate it. Chainsaw was invented by two doctors to assist in childbirth. Sawing through pelvic bone gives a mother and the baby some chance of survival if the baby is too big. Yee. Here's what the first ones looked like. Holy shit, that's a ripper from Fallout. If you need a chainsaw to remove a baby from my abdomen, please start by removing my head from body. Thanks. Ascaris worms are a type of large, parasitic roundworm that make their home in the human digestive tract. They are endemic in many parts of the world. I used to work at a hospital where we took a lot of patients from very poor and remote places, especially Central America, where roundworm infection is very common. When you put those patients under for surgery, the anesthesia causes their blood to become slightly alkaline, which the worms hate. So after a few minutes they will start coming out of every orifice in the body. Nose, mouth, rectum. And I'm talking full-sized worms that look just like earthworms. It is no cap one of the grossest things you can imagine. You give those patients a drug called bendazole, they poop dead worms for 3 days, and then they're fine. That fucking sucks, I hate it, thanks for sharing. They poop dead worms for 3 days, and then they're fine. Better out than in, I always say. Quote. Can confirm, if I'm going to have dead worms, I would very much prefer for them to be outside my body. Probably the funniest use of, no cap, I've seen. Yeah, that came out of nowhere, lol. It felt Neil deGrasse Tyson explaining the universe then ending, no cap, actually bad example, he probably would say something like that. Not so creepy, but yesterday someone posted about the Space Shuttle Challenger explosion. Some astronauts survived the explosion till they hit the ocean. Very sad to learn that. NASA's lead investigator, Robert Overmyer, concluded most if not all of the crew were alive and possibly conscious during the entire descent until impact with the ocean. After the investigation, Overmyer stated, "I not only flew with Commander Dick Scobie, we owned a plane together, and I know Scob did everything he could to save his crew. Scob fought for any and every edge to survive. He flew that ship without wings all the way down." Quote, "Humans really are fucking metal." Dolphins are known to be quite intelligent, but they can also be cruel. In some cases, they've been documented killing baby dolphins of other pods, seemingly for fun. As a scuba instructor, I do not hesitate to correct people when they go, sharks. I inform them of the incredibly low frequency of shark attacks, and remind them that dolphins are the Brock Turners of the sea. In that they are rapists. Like Brock Turner, the rapist. You mean Brock Alan Turner, the rapist, who just tries to go by Alan Turner the rapist, now. And they're rapists. Sharks are way better. So are otters, you're welcome skeptical smiley face. Dead bodies moan and grunt when you move them. I was a paramedic and firefighter for 21 years, I was around a lot of dead people. Closing parenthesis. My dog recently passed away so I had to pick him up and hold him on the way to the vet. I had to keep reminding myself that the breathing I heard was just me pushing the air out of his lungs. Nurse here, man raising hand. I learned that some people will use any hole in a sexual way, including a surgical hole in the stomach to collect poop into a bag, a colostomy. Additionally, some folks with these kinds of holes will prostitute themselves out for use of that hole. How do we know? They come in with infections in these holes and own up to the behavior. I also learned this sexual act is called a Philly sidecar. Thank you, that's enough internet for today. I really missed the person I was 20 seconds ago. Whatever, have my upvote. My partner got a colostomy fitted a couple of years ago, and it literally says in the little handbook they give you for aftercare, under no circumstances should you attempt sex through the stoma. We were horrified that it happens so often it had to be put in the book. See, because of me they have a warning. There are over 200 dead bodies located on top of Mount Everest that serves as waypoints for climbers because it's too risky to retrieve them. Yeah, and the most famous one is green boots. So if you're thinking about climbing the Everest, dress in bright colors. Nobody's gonna remember black jacket or khaki pants. They also moved Sleeping Beauty. How are you supposed to know where you are without the dead to guide you? Apparently it's tilde no longer there tilde been moved out of sight. That one misfolded protein can wind up rendering a brain about as useful as rotting cheese. https://www.hopkinsmedicine.org/health/conditions-and-diseases/prion-diseases. Fuck prions, amoebas and cancer. Those MFERS are always up to no good. Prion diseases are fucking horrifying. Wouldn't be Reddit without somebody posting about prions. That there is literally nowhere in your house that you can store your toothbrush without it getting fecal matter on it, thanks Mythbusters. In a way that's incredibly freeing. If nowhere is safe, then everywhere is safe. Edit, wow, people really think I'm saying, shove your toothbrush up your shitter, with this. And I am. Do it, you cowards. The failure of that episode is that they didn't test a toothbrush that was left sealed from the factory. I'll bet that the factory sealed toothbrush was already contaminated with fecal matter from the manufacturing plant. Lower, the African eye worm can invade the human eye. Adults are between 1 and 2.5 inches long. I'm going to pretend I didn't read that. You didn't, the worm did though. The president of Argentina and his wife kept Eva Perón's dead body just chilling at the breakfast table. Dude, it's so much worse than that. Juan and his third wife, kept his first wife's embalmed body on the dining room table 19 years after her death. Well, who hasn't let stuff pile up on the dining room table, to be fair? There is so much more. First off, after Perón died there was such an outcry during the funeral procession that 8 people were crushed to death by the throbbing crowds, and thousands were injured and hospitalized. The original plan was to embalm her and put her in a memorial that was supposed to rival the Taj Mahal. While it was being built, she was kept at home by Perón, propped up at the dinner table, etc. Eventually she was moved to her old office building and they kept her in her office on semi-public display there. Then a coup forced Perón into exile and he didn't have time to grab her body. She was put into private storage for over a decade, where a guard discovered her and apparently in solitude began to develop a relationship with her where they talked and had meals together. She was finally found in Italy but remained there for many years, until a terrorist group assassinated and kidnapped another Argentinian dictator, and then traded that body for Perón's. They left a lot out of Evita. Also, if my husband 1. Didn't cremate or bury me in a timely manner, 2. Put me in storage, and 3. Allowed some weirdo to have a relationship with my corpse, the haunting I would rain down on him would be so epic all of South America would tremble. Learning that some plants can actually communicate with each other. Suddenly, my herb garden feels a lot more like a gossip column. Oregano, hey, I heard Mint yelling at garlic and onions again last night. Rosemary, for sure, can you blame her? Those guys really do stink. In the meteor apocalypse movies it usually starts by some random research team discovering the meteor by accident, then figuring out it's headed for Earth. That's pretty much what we have to hope for. Those sons of bitches are fast. Like faster than you can imagine. In movies it's this huge ball of fire that tears through the atmosphere in some cinematic masterpiece that allows the people below to see how fucked they are. That's not true in real life. In real life it goes from the edge of our atmosphere to the Earth in less than a second. It hits the Earth so hard it'll vaporizes the ground it touches and itself. Hitting with such force that the ground moves like you threw a boulder into a lake. Waves of Earth become fluid and destroy everything in a massive flux of destruction. But what's really scary is that it's cold. It's cold until it hits some type atmosphere from a planet or space body. Because it's cold it's hard to detect with just pointing instruments into space. Unless we are specifically looking for it, we won't see it. We won't know that we're about to all die. We won't know that a meteor is about to hit us until we see a literal tsunami of Earth outside our window about to kill us. That's why movies have people discovering it by accident, because the chances of us finding it on purpose are not good. Add on, this has gotten a bunch of attention and I do see some people freaking. There is some good news in regards to this. Thanks to the sheer age of the solar system and the universe, a lot of the stuff that could have hit us has already hit us, or hit something before us. Moon craters, not just for our moon, show the impact of previous asteroids. Planets have already been bombarded by the stuff floating about, so while the chances aren't zero, they are fairly low. Also, we are a really small planet. Literally a pale blue dot even before you leave the solar system. And damn near invisible once you leave the solar system. Edit, spelling and add-on. Dan, the president asks about the size of the asteroid. Lieutenant's the size of Texas, Mr. President. President, Dan, we didn't see this thing coming. Dan, well, our object collison budget's $1 million, that allows us to track about 3% of the sky, and begging your pardon sir, but it's a big-ass sky. There's this dude who has a telescope in his backyard. It's not a budget one, but it's not some eccentric billionaire one either. It's a high-grade one for sure, but it's still a mobile personal one. He holds the record for most asteroids discovered. Why? 'Cause observing the sky with those observatories is a pain in the ass. You need to schedule it far in advance. It takes time to move it into position, and people fight for it. He just points it to wherever he wants while drinking tea. Pretty funny.